Hi, Miami. Welcome back. It's Monday, and I am super excited. First of all, I have something to celebrate. I have the name of my new show. It's called Women to Women, celebrating always women in business. And with me here today is Dr. Jessica de Valle. And Dr. Jessica de Valle practices Chinese medicine, acupuncture, all related back to dermatology. I found this subject so interesting.
So do I. That's why I do it.
So let's kind of delve into your background. How did you get started in this?
Yeah. So I always wanted to be a doctor when I was younger. And Chinese medicine wasn't something that I ever really knew about. We had a conversation before where I told you, when I was younger, I was sick. And so I kind of went through the medical system, was in and out of doctor's offices. It really disheartened me, kind of the process that I went through. And I think a lot of people can relate of just kind of, you're a number at a doctor's office.
Yeah.
And so when I walked out of there, I kind of didn't know what to do. And it turns out that my neighbor was an acupuncturist and she was treating my mother for migraines. And so my mother decided to take me to go see her, and I saw her for months. And I remember sitting in her lobby and I saw all her certificates across the board. And I just thought, you know what? I think this is something I can do. And I started looking into it. I found a school for it, and I made the decision right then and there. And, I've been doing Chinese medicine ever since.
And so how now has this translated, or, because one thing is doing Chinese medicine and then acupuncture. How has this jump started into dermatology?
So doing the Chinese medicine, you kind of learn to work with the body as a whole system, right? So as I was studying and was practicing in Kansas State for a while, I was doing some research and I came across a professor who was specializing in dermatology, and he specialized in a lot of herbal medicines. So a big part of Chinese medicine is actually herbal therapy. So we do the acupuncture. I think a lot of people know about the needles and things like that, but a lot of people don't get exposed to the herbal component of it, which is kind of like food therapy. So we take different flowers, seeds, roots, and stuff, and we formulate them together to create these decoctions, right? They're either in liquid form, powder form, or pills. And so I kind of started following him, seeing what he was doing, fell in love with everything that he was doing because I myself have a skin condition, and just kind of started treating myself through that. And the results I got were amazing. And after that, I was like, people need to know about this. I need to tell everybody about this because I suffered for a long time with my skin condition, on and off different creams, trying different shampoos and things like that. And being able to have something that I felt safe taking, that was natural, and that really showed results. How could you not share that with people who are going through stuff?
I also like hearing you tell your story. I think that when we go see a doctor and we take an antibiotic, we want to see the results to something quickly.
Right.
And I think that when we treat things with Chinese medicine or naturally, sometimes we don't see the results immediately, but it is happening slowly, which has a more lasting.
Exactly. And we were having that conversation actually of the patient's expectations, and I think society right now, everybody wants a quick fix because nobody wants to be suffering for anything. But the problem with that is in order to get a quick fix, you need something that could give you a lot of side effects. That's kind of the way the pharmacists work now with, the pills and the medication that they give out. They hone in the specific component that's going to help relieve the symptom, but they're not really looking at the bigger picture. And that's where you get all those side effects. The beautiful thing about the herbal medicine is that we take the plant as a whole. So we're not looking at the most effective part. We're looking at it as the big picture, what every part plays with each other and how they work together constructively to help alleviate certain symptoms that patients might be feeling. So I encounter that a lot where I have to reset expectations and let them know, you've been dealing with something that you've been suffering with it for maybe 5 years. 6 treatments isn't going to be enough to, take care of 5 years of a condition. So people really have to understand that if you are going to change your lifestyle, change habits, it's going to be a process. And actually going through COVID, I was able to kind of focus on that a lot more because I saw that there was a piece missing in the care that patients were getting. Now that we couldn't be one-on-one in the rooms talking like that and it was more virtual, we were exposed to a lot more of those gaps. nutrition, exercise, emotional issues, mental health has been a big thing that's come up now. And all of that plays a role in your body, the way that it works and how your skin develops. And so an emotional component is actually a huge piece of the way that your skin will react to certain things. And a lot of the conditions that I see, like psoriasis or eczema, they're actually greatly influenced by emotional trauma. So, and that's something that a lot of people don't know, so you have to look at the bigger picture of what's going on. And so what I do with my patients is I really try to take the time to understand their stories, because that's what I felt was missing when I was seeing the doctors. They weren't really paying attention to what I was telling them. It was just kind of in the room, what's going on, let's prescribe you something, out the door. And so I really strive to provide that intimate relationship with my patients, that they feel safe and they feel like they can actually tell their story and feel understood, because that's a big part of what treatment is in Chinese medicine.
I just had a family member go through a difficult time in their life, and her skin, just went nuts. She had breakouts all over her body. She didn't know what was going on. She treated it with a doctor, but she had lots of side effects because of it.
I think the main form of treatments out there now are the topical steroids, right? Or antibiotics. And where there is a time and place for everything, sometimes, your condition might call for a more natural approach. And you really have to dive deeper, and so for, your friend, that emotional component should be a big red flag that there is something deeper going on, and that, they should consider taking the time to really peel the layers back and see what they can do to adjust certain things in their lifestyle or whatever the emotional trigger might have been to help alleviate that. So that's a part of the treatments that I do, but I know that we also discussed, I kind of have laid it out as a 12-week program, 3 months. And a lot of people will say, well, 3 months is really long to undergo treatment. And you
it's
think
really
about
not.
It, like, it's your health. There shouldn't be a deadline. There's no end game to what you're doing. It's your life. It's your health. It's going to be with you till the day that you die. So you might as well, take the time, do the investment to do all of the work to have a healthier lifestyle to help prevent certain things from triggering conditions, like psoriasis and eczema. So that's what I'm really focusing on with the herbs. We do the topicals, which are all natural also. They have a big herbal component to them, and a lot of the patients love them. It's something really different, I think, when you combine herbal teas and topicals and conversations and acupuncture. I think it really makes a big impact.
Something we haven't mentioned here is, what is the name of your practice?
So my clinic is Holistic Family Center, but we opened a new department called CAM Dermatology. And so that's what I'm really focusing on, is skin conditions. And one thing that I've learned throughout all of this is that, with skin conditions, there's this triad that they found through research, where people with a skin condition will also have conditions of their digestive system and respiratory. So I have found clinically, if somebody comes in for asthma, I will ask them, do you happen to have a skin condition? And they'll actually tell me, yeah, I'll have some dermatitis or some eczema going on. So CAM Dermatology is really focused on those three things, the autoimmune conditions of the skin, the respiratory, and digestive system.
And CAM stands for?
CAM stands for Chinese herbs, acupuncture, and moxibustion, because those are the three main forms of treatments that we do in office.
And what is moxibustion?
So moxibustion is a form of therapy in Chinese medicine that's actually really ancient, and it's used a lot for fertility conditions. But it is the herb mugwort. And so we use that and we burn that on different points of the body, whether it's on the acupuncture needle or with direct contact on certain points, to help stimulate functions. So a lot of people kind of know what acupuncture is, but don't really understand the process behind it. So we have a bunch of points marked on the body, and each point has a specific function in relation to an organ in the body. So if you were to come in and tell me, I'm having some digestive issues, based on your symptoms and our consultation, I would pick certain points together to help create functions to alleviate the symptoms that you would be feeling. And it kind of blows my mind, even when I talk about it, to think about you can stick a needle in somebody and that will send a message to the brain, tell it to do something. And, they feel better when they walk out the door.
But those are that's our nervous system. That's what runs everything on the inside. And when it's all out of whack, something like the acupuncture, which I've done myself, kind of calibrates and sends these messages.
Yeah. And I think it's amazing that our body is capable of doing that. And not a lot of people are aware of that, So when you're having symptoms, that's your body telling you something's going on. It's not there to ruin your day or make you feel bad in any way. It's just saying, hey, something you've been doing up until this point isn't really working, and this is what's happening. And so I really teach my patients to be aware of what they're feeling in the moments, because that really helps guide the treatment plans.
What has been some of the most, before I ask that, what are some of the more popular herbs that you typically work with?
So I think 3 of them that a lot of people have heard about, ginger, peppermint, turmeric. A lot of those are used in our daily lives. I'm always constantly telling patients to use ginger if they're having digestive issues, turmeric if they're having joint pain. The difference between what I do and if you were to go to a store and pick up some of those herbs and pills is we are cooking those herbs at specific temperatures to collect the most potent effectiveness from that herb. And so it's a lot of research that's been done. It's a lot of lab work that gets done to know exactly at what temperature, the ginger root might release some oils that's really going to help have the effect that we want.
This is so interesting.
Yeah. So when I create a formula, I'm looking at your symptoms, I'm looking at your tongue, I'm taking your pulse, and then I'm saying, how much ginger needs to go into this formula, how much turmeric needs to go into this formula. If somebody's having a full-blown psoriasis attack and you can see the big red patches, I'm looking for something to cool your body down. So I'm probably going to throw peppermint in there. There's another herb, juha, which is chrysanthemum flower. And so we do use a lot of flowers in the herbal teas because flowers are very light and they tend to float to the surface. So the idea is kind of like treats like. So we'll throw flowers in there to help kind of bring the medicinals up to the surface of the skin. It's very poetic when you think about it.
It's like when you're talking about it, it's like, yeah, what she's saying makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's why that's why it exists and why it's gaining more and more in popularity, I think, because people are looking for a more natural way of healing.
I think there is an awakening that's kind of happening with COVID. A lot of people have had a lot of time to reflect and kind of review their habits. I mean, we were all stuck at home for a really long time, and you were kind of just confronted with, what do you do on a daily habit? And, even for me and my husband being home for those 3 months and, realizing we got to set our meal times. You got to cook. What are you going to cook? What is your diet going to look like? Where are you going to get your exercise? The mental health, emotional aspect, that all plays a big role. And I am happy to see that my patients took notice to that and that we were able to have very frank conversations about it, which in turn helped me develop this program, helped me see what they were missing and create things to fill in those gaps.
I love that. I saw on one of your social medias that you get asked, one of your posts, that you get asked how to ingest a lot of the herbs.
Right.
And what are some of your more popular ways?
The main way that we do it is through the teas. So, I'll send the formula out to the pharmacy and they'll cook the herbs and then they'll drop ship them actually to the patients. So
cool.
Yeah. I mean, it is kind of just like walking into your normal pharmacy, but instead of getting, a bottle of pills, you're getting a pouch of liquid. And it's basically, we've already cooked your tea. All you have to do is warm up the pouch, open it, and then drink it. That's my favorite form. I'm not going to lie with the herbs. I mean, they're plants, they're roots. A lot of my patients say the formulas taste like dirt, earth.
Uh-huh.
That's what they are.
Uh-huh.
But, you know, anything that's good for you sometimes doesn't taste so great. But we do have powders and we do have pills, because I do understand that sometimes it can be hard to take something that might be so bitter, which a lot of formulas for the skin can be bitter. But I would say teas are the best way. I like them. It has that home feeling, you know, like if you're home and you feel sick, you will make yourself a cup of tea, you know, if you have a cold or if your stomach's upset. I think that's everybody's kind of go-to, you know, that or a soup.
Yes.
And I think that's how we met
through Dr. Leiva's soups.
You know, and she also practices Chinese medicine. And I love her soups because they also carry that medicinal component. You know, she does the bone broth soups, and I give it to all of my patients. And we've been able to get great results with that, because on top of just giving them the herbal teas and doing the acupuncture, you're addressing nutrition from that avenue, right? And you're able to give them a soup and tell them, like, this is going to be a meal for you for the next, you know, 5, 6, 7 days or 3 times a week.
Right.
And they're able to see the change.
I love this.
Yeah.
What has been, I guess, to deal with acne, let's say, what's the treatment there, you think? I mean, I know acne is kind of difficult because everyone's
so when it comes to acne, it depends on the severity of the acne. You know, I think for women especially, it can be hormone driven, right? So it kind of goes with our cycles. As we get closer to menstruating, usually we'll get those flare-ups. Some people get it worse than others. Right. So we do look at those imbalances with the hormones, but sometimes it can be environmental, you know, and the way that you interact with your environment. If your body can adjust properly, then certain oil will be produced or overproduced. And so we treat that the same way as we do the other skin conditions with the herbal teas.
So I love this subject. My daughter, she was born premature.
Okay.
And when we came out of the NICU, she got RSV. Okay. There's no medicine you can take when they're that little.
Right.
I remember, you know, at that time you could only do the humidifier, and I don't know if someone recommended it to me or if I just thought of it, but I diffused eucalyptus oil.
Yeah.
She got bronchitis because of that. She developed bronchitis very easily. And so then I was using eucalyptus oil in the shower. I would put it alongside the humidifier. And I think that was one of the first times, I saw how it helped.
Right.
It was incredible. I mean, I recommend this to every mom that I'm like, what are you giving them? Just diffuse eucalyptus oil. You will see a big difference. Yeah. And I can't tell you how many moms have come to me and said, what a great tip. How come I don't know about this? I'm like, I don't know how I came up with the idea. It just something. And you just being more open to these ideas. You know, I know Dr. Leiva. I had another doctor here that uses cannabis to treat her patients. It's just something that has just really resonated within me, that there are other forms of treating people in a more natural way. It's not to say that sometimes you still don't need your medicine, but if you can support your immune system in a more natural way, why wouldn't you try this? And this isn't something that you're going to see the results in
overnight.
I mean,
in some cases,
sometimes,
you will. But I find it interesting that, you know, a lot of people look at the natural stuff as the alternative. But if you really think back to like your grandmother's time, your great-grandmother's time, this is the stuff they were doing. You know, they didn't have all these pharmacies available to them. They didn't have all of the research, all of the science. So what they turned to were the herbs in their gardens, you know, the food that they could give you, how they would create a recipe for, you know, your grandmother's favorite chicken soup, like how you felt so much better with that.
Exactly. Why do you feel better when you have chicken soup?
And so, you think of eucalyptus and you say, wow, there's this other form of treatment out there. But that was the first form of treatment. You know, Chinese medicine has been around for thousands and thousands of years. It's what was available in the environment to them. That's also something that's very beautiful, I think, is Mother Nature knows what to provide, you know?
Totally. It's so true.
Yeah. Another thing that I recommend to my patients a lot, and, you know, if they're watching and tuning in, they're going to laugh because I tell them to have watermelon all the time during the summer, because watermelon is actually a natural diuretic. So it's going to help you pee more, but in causing you to urinate, what's going to happen is it's actually going to drag out a lot of extra heat that you might have in your body. So for people who are suffering from canker sores or the eczema or psoriasis, if they have watermelon, they're helping clear their body of all that excess heat that might be in there.
I never knew this.
Yeah, and I tell them, how beautiful that in summer, the hottest point throughout the year, Mother Nature's like, here's this fruit, here you go. And if you eat it, it'll actually help hydrate you faster than if you just had water itself. And that's something that I learned in school as well. And you're just kind of like, wow, this is never really taught to us.
No.
And I do think that, again, with everybody kind of realizing what's going on with, taking more time for yourself and investing in your health, because that's really what's going to determine how long, you're living. A lot of people are paying attention to agriculture, nutrition, things like that. And I think a lot of schools are also developing programs. I know some of my friends who go in and they teach the kids now about watermelon, about different foods and things that they could have, teach them how to farm and grow certain things. And there's a real change coming, and I'm real excited for it.
If you teach a class like that, you got to tell me, because I'll sign my child up for them.
I'm working on it. I actually used to work with a nutritionist who did that. And I have been having conversations with them, because I think that's the best place to start is with the kids. Because they also help influence parents. We get so caught up in our own world that if your kid kind of confronts you and says like, Mom, we should be having more watermelon, that almost kind of guilts you into
it. Just that. When you were saying that, watermelon's everywhere right now. And my daughter loves watermelon. Yeah. And I buy it more because she wants it. Yeah. And we adults just get so busy in our everyday autopilot mode. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that whole thing about the watermelon. And now no wonder she loves it so much. It's flushing out all that candy and sugar.
But I don't know if you've ever felt it, but when you're really thirsty and you're outside on the beach, who doesn't love a good slice of watermelon?
Totally.
That's what you go for instead of the water.
It's true. It's refreshing.
Yeah, it is very refreshing. It helps engender a lot of fluids. So it helps hydrate you a lot faster. So I do tell a lot of my athlete patients as well, if they are going to be exercising during the summer a lot, watermelon has to be their go-to.
What about strawberries? Is that like...
Strawberries are good also, but they don't have that diuretic effect that watermelon has. So that's something else about Chinese medicine is we really work with the seasons, right? So as the seasons change, the herbs and the medicinals change, because we have to compensate for how your body's going to react with the environment and how, that's going to influence certain symptoms. So especially in the wintertime, we give a lot more warming stuff. So ginger is actually something that's very good for that. That will help warm the body to prepare it for the colder temperatures that will be coming in the winter.
So my daughter just had a little cold recently, and yes, I was doing the eucalyptus oil, but I was also doing a lot of teas, and I was doing lemon, natural lemon, and putting honey in it.
Right.
Any other things like...
Yeah. So, it also depends on the symptoms. And this is where kind of knowing exactly what to use and when comes into play. So I think that's another important thing to know, that if you are going to dive into the herbs for medicine, really talk to somebody who knows what they're doing, because where for somebody, having peppermint might be a good option, somebody else might have certain symptoms where that cooling effect isn't really going to help them. So for someone who is suffering maybe from more sore throat, you are going to want more mint-like herbs, right? That will help cool down that burning feeling that you're having.
Yeah.
But if you're having something like, white congestion in the nose, peppermint might not be the best option. You want something a little bit warmer because there's too much cold in the body.
Right.
So it's knowing those balances and knowing what to give when. So, if you are going to take something, always ask your doctor.
So do you do Zoom calls too?
I do. So because of COVID, we actually switched over to doing telehealth for the initial consultations to limit the one-on-one contact that we were having. But it's actually proven to be maybe one of the best things I've done, because in the Zoom call, I can dedicate 100% of my focus to that patient and having that conversation. So if that conversation is 30 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes, we're locked in and we're having the discussion and we're talking about their story, we're talking about their symptoms, and really able to carry an in-depth conversation about what they might need and, you know, what their next steps moving forward would be. So yeah, telehealth available for everybody.
Awesome. Okay. I also read that you're going to be hosting soon. You have a little event coming up.
Yes.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, a tea tasting event. So in talking about all these herbs, you know, a lot of people don't really understand or grasp the concept of how these herbs work together. So what I'll be doing is we'll be creating these, you know, cute little packages of different herbs, and we'll be talking a lot about the flavors and how they work together, because that's how I learned it. You know, you learn the flavors and how they work together and how one influences the other. And so we'll get to taste those different things. You'll get to see what a real bitter herb tastes like,
So
what a
great.
sweet herb tastes like, and what happens when you combine, you know, sweet and salty. That actually has a function. And so you can really go deep with this stuff. You know, in Chinese culture, when they create their dishes, they create them based on flavors, right? So there is a sour portion, there is a salty portion, there is a sweet portion, and there's a reasoning behind that. There's actually a purpose to that, because the way that you combine them will help your digestion be more effective. And so those are the kind of conversations that we're going to be having at the tea tasting event.
So how can people participate in the tea tasting event?
So if you go to our Instagram at Cam Dermatology, you'll be able to click the link in the bio and there will be a sign-up sheet. So that'll put you on our email list. We'll send you all the information. You'll get the Zoom link. We'll sign you up. You'll get your package.
So cool.
And yeah, then during
When's
the
this going to happen?
So we haven't set a date yet, but it will be in the summer.
Okay.
We're trying to get people signed up and everything.
I'm going to be signing up for this.
And so, you know, it'll be something super casual, you know, in the afternoon. We'll all be sitting there drinking our teas and tasting things. You're going to see everybody make funny faces as they go through it, but it'll be a lot of fun.
So everyone, we can find Jessica, like she said, on Instagram at Cam Dermatology. And also you have a website.
Yes, holisticfamilycenter.com. That is the name of the main clinic. And Cam Dermatology is the department that we are opening specifically to treat these skin conditions.
I'm so happy you came here and shed some light on this subject, and I find it fascinating, and I appreciate everyone watching. If you are a woman in business that would like to have your business featured here, I would love to talk to you, so get in touch with us, and we will see you again next Monday at 11 a.m. for another Women to Women show. Thanks for watching, and bye.